Hello there. What is going on, everyone? We've got some X-Wing and Armada news today out of Atomic Mass Games related to tournaments. Of course, on the perfect timing of the launch of Adepticon for this year, we have some new tournament regulations to talk about for X-Wing and Armada. If you guys are new here to the channel, we are giving away another $25 Amazon gift card. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. Also, be sure to check out our Discord. We've got links in the description below. You can jump in there and continue the discussion. Also, want to thank today's sponsor, Luxury Playstyle. Amazing full metal tokens. All you have to do is head over to luxuryplaystyle.com. Check out all the awesome X-Wing tokens, Legion tokens, lots of other games. They're full metal, double-sided, absolutely gorgeous. Use code Crabbok VIP. You're going to save 15% in orders of $35 or more. You're going to get a free lightsaber nunchuck token thrown in. So we're going to talk about some of these new tournament regulations that Atomic Mass Games posted. They are up on Atomic Mass Games' website right now. I will put links to both of these in the description as well. So we're going to start off with Armada. So first thing I want to talk about with the Armada tournament regulations guide is that it's Armada news. And that is a good thing because it's new Armada stuff out of Atomic Mass Games. This is a good thing. It's something Armada related, and of course we're going to talk about it, but there's not a whole lot here. And so there's lots of different ways that we can look at it. This is version 4.0. It's effective March 23rd, so like went into effect immediately. Now this is a little bit of a change of pace because sometimes you'll see new tournament rules or new rules reference guides that will come out and they'll be effective like next month or after like the next big event. But they wanted these to go into effect right away. And now that could be particularly jarring, I think, for some folks because of the fact that if there were big changes and they announced this like the night before you start, your world's qualifying tournament, that could certainly have an impact. However, fortunately, in this case, I don't believe we're going to see much that really provides much of an impact. Basically, it looks to me, after kind of just doing a preliminary read through of this tournament guidelines, is that it's mostly unchanged from existing Armada tournament guidelines, which I think is absolutely fine. I think Armada hasn't had any big shakeups or any major needs for new tournament guidelines. But one of the things that you will notice if you check this guide out is, first off, they did replace. I'm going to go down to the bottom of this. They did replace the FFG logo with Atomic Mass Games, and so like the changeover, the handover is complete as far as this document is concerned, and it's going to certainly reference atomicmassgames.com, and so that is certainly important. But the other thing that I think is interesting here is that it talks a little bit about talks about some points and the things that I think were already there, but it also talks about what's legal and what's not legal, and it's I thought that might have been something that there could have been some confusion over because FFG had their own prize support and of course a lot of people you like to use their own types of tokens and things like that, and it does talk about basically non-essential tokens versus let me, I can find it in here, but basically there's a token section here, right here on the, what is this, the fourth page. On the fourth page here, there's a section that talks about tokens and what's legal, what legal products are, and non-essential tokens are basically the things that are your ship, your command tokens, and your raid tokens, and your defense tokens, and things like that. It does say they have to be pretty clear, and don't not accidental modifications. So don't use like a die, like a D20 with a brace on top that could easily be knocked over and things like that. But things that you can't swap out, the things that are going to go on the board and are used for precise measurements. So things like objective tokens and things like your obstacles and of course your ship bases and things like that. And again, I don't think this is really much of a change from what we've seen before. So this is, I think I don't have the old version up. However, this may have looked right before they updated this version, but I don't really see much of a change other than really the removal of the Fantasy Flight Games links and the replacement to the Atomic Mass Games links. Now, we do need to see a little bit of a slight difference when we go over to the X-Wing side. So let's talk about the X-Wing tournament regulations now. This one also is effective March 23rd, so immediately went into effect. And we've got our basic rules, and for the most part, this is also largely unchanged. You're going to find, a lot of your standard, tournament guidelines, submitting your lists and being sporting with your opponent, so on and so forth. But there is one interesting thing in here, and it's under dice. Now this jumped out. It does say players must use official Star Wars X-Wing dice. This includes the dice found in the core box, dice expansions, and or promotional material distributed by Atomic Mass Games. Players may not use replacement dice. Now, this makes perfect sense to me, but it's worth exploring this a little bit more because I think there's some ambiguity in here, and I don't think we need to go too far into it, but I think some people are probably wondering, wait a second, what about those of us who liked to use the dice from Outer Rim? All right, those were the same as X-Wing dice, but they were the gold ones, which were effectively the same print run as like an old Worlds promo reward for that Fantasy Flight had distributed. So, there's obviously going to be some people who are going to ask the question, like, rules as written here, can I not use Fantasy Flight Games dice? Like OP, because Fantasy Flight Games gave out a lot of organized play stuff. So can I not use those? I honestly don't think there will be a problem with you using those. And of course, this is a tournament regulation, but at any given tournament, things are up to the TO. So a TO could certainly say, "Hey, you can't." And it also doesn't mention the dice app here, right? Dice found in the core box, dice equipment, and or promotional materials. So can we not use the dice app anymore? I guess I have questions on those things, but I don't see any reason why any reasonable TO wouldn't let you use the dice app or your World's dice and things like that. Now, I understand why they put this in here, because while a lot of people do make third-party components, and by the way, the same rules for tokens are still in new effect here. You can still use tokens. You can still use your luxury playstyle tokens. Although I have heard that if you ended up if you went to Worlds if you went to AMG's own sponsored tournament, if you went to Worlds and you ended up on an AMG official stream, then you would probably have to make some changes depending on what ends up on stream due to licensing concerns and stuff. So you might have to swap out some fancy acrylic tokens or fancy metal tokens or something like that with official tokens for live stream games if AMG is actually doing the stream. And that makes sense to me because they have a license to worry about. But outside of that, that very small case that only the top 1% of the top 1%, will ever even have a chance of being, at that final table at Worlds or something like that. So for the other 99.9999% of us, there's no problem there. But I can understand why they have a dice clause in here because, I know some people who have made their own dice. And the problem with making your own dice is that dice don't always roll perfectly, and you can definitely have some feels bad situations where somebody's like, "Wait a second," There's been whole studies done on dice, and not all dice are created equal. Even the FFG dice aren't all perfect, and there's tests that people have done where there's a floating test, because they have air bubbles in them, and usually the air bubble is designed to be in a specific spot to balance the die. Because of the fact that there are grooves in the dice and not on all sides the dice do have blank sides, means that they're not perfectly symmetrical, and there's all these studies, and haven't really gotten that far into it, but I do know that it is possible and it is likely to have some imperfect dice. It's one of the reasons I sell a bad dice prison bag where you put your dice on carbonite. But so I understand you don't want people making their own dice. They might, first off, you could get weighted dice in that way, or just have people like that are, people already get up in arms enough about dice. So it's one of the things they say is you can also request that you use a shared pool. Everybody roll the same set of dice, so this way you can't complain that much. Hey, I rolled the same dice you did. That's certainly something that you can do. I always liked the app for purposes like that because it's it was made by Fantasy Flight Games, but it's Atomic Mass Games and stuff. So I'm curious how the dice app is going to figure into that. But basically, the idea here isn't to stop people from really using their FFG dice. I don't believe that that's the intent behind this. I think this is just a blanket disclaimer to kind of stop people from bringing in their own homemade dice. Because I'll point out one interesting thing here. It doesn't say made by Atomic Mass Games. It says other promotional material distributed by Atomic Mass Games. So all it would take is for Atomic Mass Games to have a box of these gold dice and ship them off to a tournament as prize rewards, and then all of a sudden it's all perfectly legit. All right? So all they have to do is basically give it the thumbs up. And so I'm sure a TO at any given tournament would make the final call on that. And I don't think, as long as everything's on the up and up, I don't think Atomic Mass Games would have a problem with you using dice that were given out by FFG, because Atomic Mass Games has already given out some dice that were made by FFG, but they did that for Legion. So I don't know if they've done that for X-Wing yet, but they may have some leftover FFG dice that they might want to distribute as prize support. And if not, the good news for both of these games is that certainly implies continued prize support and OP support and tournament support for these games, which is pretty cool. All right, so as we scroll down a little bit more into this document, there's another interesting thing. They're talking about all the end of match marshals, tiebreakers, all of this stuff. There's this variations on the very last page that some people might miss, and this is a little bizarre. They have a Fangs Out alternative mode, right here. Let me kind of, I want you guys to see this Fangs Out mode. So Fangs Out is a variant event format that follows all the same rules as a hotshot event with the following changes. A hotshot event would be basically kind of like your regular tournament. Basically, they randomize the clock and keep it secret. Okay, and it's this really complicated system of like roll some red dice and green dice, and you use the crits and the hits to add minutes equal to the number of evades and eyeballs on the defense dice. And then if it's blank, you remove minutes equal to like all this other stuff. But the judges don't tell the players how much time is left. So you just play until after 12 rounds of play are resolved, or until the round timer runs out, whichever occurs first. So that's really weird. I mean, and now because it's a variation, it's not like, I don't expect this to be like the norm. It's almost like they just said, like AMG has said that they do like chaos in their games and in their OP kits and their narrative events. They want like random things happening. And now they're randomizing the amount of time you have to play. Now, it's not randomizing it by that much. It's going to be probably the difference of like between 3 and 9 minutes or something like that. So it's not really going to be like a huge amount of change. But if it does maximize and you do end up losing 9 minutes off of your timer, then that might certainly surprise you, especially if you're playing a lot of tournaments, and because a lot of rounds, a lot of games that I do play tournaments in sometimes come down to the last round or come down to time, and so like that could be interesting, but like that seems like it's something that you might just do for like more of a casual event. I don't ever see that being like the format for like a Worlds or a Worlds qualifier. So yeah, I just thought that was really interesting that that's in there. I like Fangs Out as surprising to me. That's all I can say. That seems very interesting. It seems very interesting. But again, if you want to check out these rules for whether it's X-Wing or Armada, I will put links in the description below. You can check those out. Again, not many major changes. It's not a rules reference guide update. It's not a points change. It's just tournament regulations. And it's good that they are putting out more stuff about these games. It's good that they are keeping the documentation up to date, making sure their name is on there. And this is really more of a a step towards continued and future support beyond just this year and into next year and into the future, and keeping these games supported and keeping the rules up to date. It all sounds very good to me. So I want to hear what you guys think, though. Let me know what you think about randomizing timers for rounds. I want to know what you think about, what do you think about maybe some old FFG dice that you still have? I still have a lot of those for Armada. Now, I'll note that Armada didn't have the same clause for dice in there. I think they probably don't have any FFG Armada dice left over to distribute, so they probably didn't come up when in the discussions for that. But I thought that was an interesting thing, because I actually use FFG prize support dice for my Armada games. And now I happen to have spare dice from a couple of core sets. I've bought plenty of core sets and starters over the years with Armada. Also having, what was I bought, I think about 3 core sets for Armada. When it first came out, I really wanted big fleets before Wave 1 was even out. And then on top of that, I think 3 each of the Clone Wars starters. So I've got a lot of regular dice if I ever had to go back to them. But I do like my sparkly dice. I gotta say, I do kind of like those, because those were pretty cool. All right, guys, that is going to do it for today. I want to thank my patrons. I want to thank you guys all for watching. The patrons, you guys are amazing and help make this channel possible. So thank you for your continued support. I will talk to you all soon. May the Force be with you. And as always, make sure your socks never go on your nose.